I've made you wait a whole weekend for this, but today we're back. Man City in the Champions League final. Our second Champions League final in a row. And this one I think is going to be the game that really defies our season. A season of disappointment. A season which in the end saw us finish third. A season where, well, when you look at the teams we lost to, but particularly in the Carabao Cup, you can't help but feel a little bit disappointed. But all of that would be washed away if we can win today. As for our opposition in Man City, they are 7th place in the Premier League to end the season. It's been an equally awful season for them, and if they want Champions League football next year, they have to win this game today. Were the team standing in their way? Are we going to make it to Champions Leagues on the spin? Can we upset the odds by beating Man City? I say that, we're probably the bigger team at this point. We're going to find out today. Oh, and this game today is Erling Haaland's last ever game. He is retiring after this final. Will he get the romantic ending alongside the likes of Yeremy Pino, who's also retiring? Or are we about to, well, just, give them a sad day to remember their footballing careers by? I'm hoping it's going to be the latter. Let's run the intro. I'm going to go get my blazer. We're going to get right into things. Let's do this. Today, by the way, is episode number 135 of Park to Prem. We're approaching 150 rather quickly, and I think if we can say with confidence, we will hit episode 150 before this series is over. Now, like I already mentioned, Premier League season has ended. We had a couple of games to end things. We actually drew against Chelsea, drew against Manchester United, and then won against Southampton. That said, we did end up finishing pretty far off the pace. Liverpool ended up being champions this year. Last year, if we just look at things, they finished behind us by 4 points. And, well, now they're back at the top. Chelsea not far behind them either. As for ourselves, things did go down to the wire to secure a top 4 finish. But the good news is Champions League football is guaranteed. And it means when it comes to the next transfer special, we've got £120 million transfer budget to spend. Tomorrow's going to be fun, but that is tomorrow. Today, we've got to keep our heads in the game. And speaking of head in the game, that game, Manchester City, Champions League final at the Stade de France. Here's a little recap of how both teams have made it to the final. Of course, we navigated Real Madrid in pretty emphatic fashion last episode. We came back from 3-1 down to go through on penalties. We beat Arsenal before that. We beat Roma 8-4 before that. As for Man City, they knocked out Manchester United. They knocked out Lyon. They knocked out Bayern Munich. And well, we get to take them on today. I'm not that happy that we're playing against another English team. And the reason I say that is because domestically, against the big dogs, we have struggled this year. Man City, though, perhaps a bit of an exception to the rule. We did lose to them in our most recent game against them 2-0. Prior to that, though, we do have quite a good head-to-head record for this one. Before we head to the final, though, we are going to do an away day, and if I'm not mistaken, this is our first away day in France. We've managed to dodge them for long enough. This is basically a local game for us. Let's hop on a speedboat to France, get the bus to the city, and, well, I'll see you in a mo to see what France has got to offer. If I'm not mistaken, this is basically a local game for us, the Stade de France. We are leaving Guernsey and we are heading to France for the first time ever. And actually, when you look at it, we are pretty much as close to Paris as we are to London. This is basically a local kickabout for us. And when it comes to the Stade de France, it's actually based in Saint Denis. Is Saint Denis part of Paris, technically? I believe it is. Correct me if I'm wrong. Here is the stadium. It is in a very, very urban area from the looks of things. Let's hop in satellite view. Is there much greenery on display? Maybe a little bit. I mean, you got a river. It doesn't look super scenic around, does it? It's the kind of stadium that makes me want to play City Skylines. We'll say from the satellite view, doesn't look like there's a running track. See, in France, that they understand sport. They've got the running track outside the stadium. They know how to please me. I am just looking for parking. I mean, if you want to park up, a boat, you could probably dock it at the edge here. Probably would leave the car at home. There doesn't appear to be too much in the way of parking options. Here's a look at the stadium from the main road. I feel like I've picked the wrong place to look at the stadium here, really, haven't I? The stadium does look a little bit space-agey from the outside, doesn't it? With the circular roof, the stairs up. You've got the running track over here, by the way, if you're wondering. In terms of the stadium itself, it's not a looker. That's what I'll say. It doesn't look that pretty. I hope the people of France don't take this the wrong way. It looks a bit like an airport to me. As for how it looks from the inside, I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist. I think there's a running track here. They're trying to hide from me underneath this kind of carpet. The stadium itself, I don't like the fact the seats are white. It's just a bit boring, really, isn't it, having the seats white? Are they like grey seats as well, or darker seats up top, or is that just the shadow? I can't tell. Either way, not very aesthetically pleasing to look at. The stadium itself, though, is a biggie, and it is pretty impressive looking. I'll give it to you. I mean, this is a first for an away day. Cup holders in this part of the stadium. I guess this is more the VIP bit, because there's no chance you're getting cup holders at every single seat around the ground. That's just not a thing. And if it is a thing, France have got every kind of stadium thing figured out before the rest of the world. We need cup holders everywhere. I will concede that when the stadium's actually got fans in it donning national team colours, as is the case here, we've got the Polish fans that we're in with, no cup holders by the way, the stadium does suddenly look a lot more pretty. I will admit it, I can look beyond the seats in a full ground. When we've got Guernsey green sat everywhere, it looked great. Of course, given the fact we're playing Man City today, one half the stadium will just look like white seats, because Man City, there you go. Low-hanging fruit, doing a joke. Man City fans hate that joke. It's not even funny. I'll admit it. I know it. I'm sorry. I just want to get in a little jab. Apologies. I'm looking at the outside for something to do, and there's very little to do. Can we go look at the running track? Can we have a look at this? What is going on here? I mean, there is the football stadium. You know what? I think on this note, we're just going to leave. What is happening? I've gone to the afterlife. Okay, the Stade de France, I have to give you a score. You have one of the least welcoming kind of exteriors to a stadium I've ever seen. Like, the gatedness of it, the spikes on top, just the general aesthetic. It's not a looker, is it? And there's not a lot going on the outside. I don't want to upset the neighbours of Guernsey here, because, you know, it's not that far away from ourselves to the stadium. That said, for the fans that are making the trip, it's not a classic, it's not a good one, and for that reason, the Stade de France, which I will find again to show that I have learnt, I'm giving it 4 out of 10. Yeah, I'm getting harsher with my scoring. Anyway, let's talk game plan, and the game plan is to attack, attack, attack. I'm starting with the 4-2-3-1 this year, which, I mean, it probably guarantees us a bit more entertaining football, but the reality is that this year, this is the system that we've used more often than not, and to be honest, when you look at the games where we've not used it, those generally have been the games where we struggled a little bit more. When we played Man City away, we played the 5 at the back, it didn't work out. That is kind of lingering in the back of my mind. But when we have played this system, especially in the Champions League, goals have flowed. This is the system we used when we came back against Real Madrid. This is also, I think, the lineup that we played when we came back against Real Madrid. Kind of rare, this. No injuries to starting players. That said, Greg is unavailable today, as is Huntyen. So maybe one Plan B striker unavailable for this game. That said, we've still got lots of talent. Paulie Parker's on the bench. Sula. Of course, Jude Bellingham is also playing his final game of football here. I would love to get him on off the bench at some point, even if it's just to mock Erling Haaland for the fact that he's retiring without winning a Champions League trophy, at least this year. Man City have won this competition twice in the save game, if you were wondering. I suppose when you look at it as well, the lineup that we're going with has all the in-form players on the pitch. One thing that has especially impressed me as the season's gone on is the big guns have actually started to perform pretty well, as we saw against Real Madrid. This season had an awful start. We've kind of salvaged it a little bit, and whilst maybe not a failure to finish third to reach a Champions League final, it would feel like a success if we win this game today. Now, given the fact this is the only game we're playing today, I think I'm also going to change from key highlights to extended. You know, we get a little bit more suffering, a little bit more suspense for this final, as it is the only game today. I'm going to tell the players that this is a day for the supporters. Do it for them. Look at that. We're very connected to our community at this club. Okay, the players are coming out. I don't want to interrupt this. I can't change the highlight yet. Okay, the game's begun. I was about to change to extended highlights, and a highlight began immediately. Is it going to be an early highlight in our favour? It seems like it could be. Alanis wins a header, but he is all on his lonesome as that lone striker, so no one there to follow up on his header win. And now, Lasserre playing it forward to Diaz, of course. Sweeney and Parkin on the bench for us. 2 former Man City men on our team, and 2 players that we signed for a combined £200 million from this Man City team. It's going to be a little bit embarrassing here if, having bought 2 of their players for £200 million, we lose to them. Adu Jamfi with the ball, laying it inside to Monteiro. He's going to go wide to Archer. The right back has been amazing this year. Monteiro, Lemos. He turns up in these finals. He threads it through to Chapman. And the former Manchester United man against the rival Manchester club flubs his lines, misses that chance. That said, there's a corner here. Monteiro's over it. And for a moment, I thought it was going to find Coppo's forehead. It's away for another corner. Little bit of early pressure, perhaps in our favour. Just looking at the stats, still very early on, 7 minutes in. We've had 75% of the ball, and with Coppo scoring that header there, we also have the lead. Can you believe that I went for a period in kind of January, February, where I stopped playing Coppo? Now, me neither. That was a mental decision. There he is popping up with a big header. That is great. I know it's still early on in this game. We are absolutely running rampant when it comes to possession. Manchester City not doing a great deal with it. Still early doors though, but to get our noses ahead maybe alleviates a little bit of the pressure. We've been here in a Champions League final before. On that occasion we won 3-0 and we could have a chance. We do have a chance and we're going to take that chance to double our lead here. Matty Cadman, you beautiful man. They say he was made in a laboratory. They say he was made by scientists. The reason they call him Cadman is because it was computer-aided design that came up with this striker. And with a finish like that, I'm kind of buying into the theory he could be a cyborg. Erling Haaland sat on the bench. This is meant to be his swan song. What a sad ending to your career, Erling. Pathetic. You're rubbish, son. Welcome to the Alanis era. If we do now go on to lose this game, this is going to be a little awkward, but I'm feeling confident. Chapman. Ball dinked forward. Archer takes the ball down really nicely, the right back. Dispossessed by Diaz. And Mealy now with the ball for them. If they were to get one goal back very early on here, suddenly I'll calm down slightly. In previous finals, we've had rocky times, we've had easy times. When we beat Hertha Berlin in the Conference League final, I think it was 2-2 or 2-1 to them at half-time. Last year against Hertha Berlin, we were comfortably up in that match. Here, it's been a great start, but we got to stay alert. Wilford makes a good stop there. Manchester City carving open our defence. That's not something we want to see. And there is still a set piece now to deal with here. Mora back post. Grasser heads it away. Halfway through this first half, as much as we have the lead here, we have to remember this is a good Man City team. It's a Man City team with talent, but, I mean, Chapman's quicker than all their talent from the looks of things. Could we hit them on the counter? Not sure if this could even count as a counter-attack if it materialises into anything. I feel like this is destined to fizzle out into nothing. Lasser lays it down to Diaz. Man City bringing the ball forward again. Switched over to Voloshin. He takes it down. Option to his right. He's going to find that option as well. Players queuing up in the middle. Can we do some defending here? Jamfi shepherding his man away well. Dives in for a tackle. Doesn't win it. Shots blocked in the penalty area. The ball is just ping-ponging around. Can we please get it away from danger? I think the highlight ended there and then immediately another highlight began. The Football Manager doesn't do relaxing games when you put extended highlights on. You get the fraud highlights like the one we saw there. I'm going to hope that this is a fraud highlight. That was a chance. Wilford's made another stop. He's on a 7.0 already, our goalkeeper. Why is there another highlight right away? Why are we doing this, Football Manager? Why after we took a 2-goal lead could we not just have a nice relaxing game? Man City are on the attack here. Kerr at left back bringing it forward. Emili now into the box. Lays it off to Mora, who thinks he's playing rugby. That is 3 points to Wigan. Or Man City, as the case is here. Yeah, that's been kicked between the sticks. We live to fight another day. Although that another day, it could be coming right away. Rios, Grasser, Monteiro looking to build the ball out from the back. Wide with Jamfi. A little bit of space for the wing-back to get forward into. I think he has 14 or 15 assists this year. He could be adding another one here. Cadman, the goal scorer, holding up the play nicely. Can we get the ball in? We can. Alanis is there. That header was only just wide of the mark. I don't want to turn into Pep Guardiola and start overthinking things. I am just sat thinking at 2 goals up. Do I want to slow down the tempo a little bit? Get a little bit of time wasting going early on? I'm not sure if I want to. Man City had a small flurry of chances, but suddenly, we're the team on the attack here. We could have a chance. It ping-pongs around in the box. Cadman's effort, saved by the keeper. We've not even played half an hour here. I feel like we've played a full match with the amount of highlights. Chapman pulls the... I mean, why are we showing me that, Football Manager? What is that all about? I will say, Wilford's made a few stops. Apparently, Man City haven't had a shot on... Well, okay, now they've had a shot on target in this game. I think I am just going to lower the tempo slightly here of how this game's going. We can afford to dictate the pace of it a little bit more. Before half-time, if we could get in with a 2-goal lead, that would be really, really nice. Going to encourage the players as well. And, well, I thought that was hopefully going to be enough to get us over the line. Sadly... it's not going to be, and sadly for us, Man City back with possession, back bringing the ball forward, and we need to be wary here. We need to get men behind the ball and defend. That said, Cadman's doing the defending, and now he's bringing the ball forward. What can he do here? I'll tell you what, he runs straight into the defender. That's what he's going to do, and now there's just space in behind for them to exploit. One man in the middle to aim for here. That man, I think, is Lasser. Amili, edge of the box, could pull the trigger. Does pull the trigger just wide. Why is there more highlights? Why am I playing on extended highlights? Why am I putting myself through this? I have many, many questions. It's too stressful. Lasser shoots. Wilford holds on to it. It was offside. It wouldn't have counted. Half-time in the Champions League final. We are 2 goals to the good. We have taken the chances that have come our way. It'd be silly of me not to acknowledge the fact Man City had the better of the second half of that first half. Once we got that second goal... there was a bit of complacency that crept in, and I'm now sat here thinking, with Chapman not playing well, would it be Guardiola-esque to, at this point here, go for a change that sees us bring in Sweeney, the former Man City man, and just go to a more conservative system? And as much as it might be a little bit overthinky, I'm also thinking that that is going to be the decision I'm going to make here. I'm going to get rid of work ball into the box. I'm going to lower the tempo slightly. And also get rid of pass into space. Kind of want to do something that we've done a few times this year, which is where we look to play the 5 at the back system, but without playing out from the back too much. We don't want to get caught with the ball as they're chasing the game and pressing. Archer at right back's not the best of games, but I'm going to let him off the hook at least for now. Same with Alanis, just because they are 2 players, Alanis and Archer, who they can have an awful 45 minutes and then suddenly they'll have a moment of magic and do something great. I thought for a moment Alanis was about to get a red card there as he dived in for a tackle. Fortunately, it's not given. Kickoff's occurred. We're back underway. And we're back with the highlights. Man City with the ball. Is it just me or are Man City shorts very ugly in 3D? Is that a hot take? I don't like the red shorts. I think they have to wear them because we have white shorts. I feel like they wouldn't normally wear those, but it's like one of those home away kit blendy things. I don't like the shorts. They look bad. Man City, fix it. Right, we're on the attack. I'm not sure why I'm critiquing the fashion sense of the other team. It's a Champions League final, and it's a final that has Matthew Cadman's name written all over it. 2 goals for him now. I think I'm in love. I saw comments 2 seasons ago criticising Matty Cadman. He had a slow start, I'll admit it, but the last 2 seasons, he and Lemos have just been clutch factors. And it feels like it could happen again here. We're 3 goals up in a Champions League final for a 2nd year in a row. And ultimately, it's boiled down to just some sensational finishing where we have had high-pressure one-on-one chances. It could get worse, Man City. It is going to get worse. That highlight came from absolutely nowhere. Monteiro has just scored a free kick. I mean, it was 2-0 at the break. I thought maybe I'm overthinking it by changing things tactically. Suddenly, I look like a genius. Unlike the camera operator, who's forgotten to follow the ball there. But I'm not going to complain about him. I can't believe it. 4-0 up in a Champions League final. Mad. At 4-0 up, I almost want to relax a little bit. You know, I want to take off the blazer. I'm sat thinking, can I go and wear just something very casual? Can I go and get a Christmas sweater on and just feel a bit festive about everything right now? It's quite relaxing, almost, for a Champions League final at this point. The nerves were there where we had to weather a storm at the end of the first half, but we managed to do it nicely. Wilford made a couple of stops. Defenders got themselves behind shots as well. And from that situation, a quick 1-2 punch to start this half just kind of puts us in a situation now where I don't feel like I have to worry, he says, as they're on the attack, having a shot in the penalty area. We're going to get it away from danger. With the 3 centre-back system now, we've got so many players in the box to deal with this kind of thing. I just don't see a world in which Man City are going to now break us down 4 times. I don't think it can happen. Famous last words potentially, but yeah, I'm not worried. Mora going to whip it in, headed away from danger. We will take that all day, every day. Cadman out into touch. Relax. So I'm going to make some subs. What subs am I going to make, you ask? Grasser off for Bellingham. Jude Bellingham, final game of his career. Round of applause. Benjamin Sesko as well is retiring at the end of this game, so I'm going to bring it on him as well, just, because I'm a footballing romantic. He's 35 years old, he's retiring at the end of the year. I want to claim he's been a Guernsey legend. Never scored for us in the Premier League, but I don't know. He's existed. He deserves a send-off. I am starting to think, can I bring on Rob Carlton? Could Rob Carlton, the backup goalkeeper, just come on off the bench? He's homegrown at club. He was here when we were here in the Vanarama National League. If I really am the romantic footballing fan that I claim to be, he should be on the pitch. Might bring him on later on in this game, because I still feel like Wilford might have a save or two to do, just like the one he's made there. That was a nice stop, even if it was straight down his throat. Could we now make something happen immediately? I mean, I'd love Benjamin Sesko or Bellingham to score on the final game of their career. Whether or not it can be expected, slightly less certain, especially because Man City have just got a goal back. Although we're going to VAR, referee's put his hand to his ear. Their player's stolen the ball. He's convinced he's onside. I'm convinced by it. Is this going to be given? I have to assume it is. It is going to be given. The way that their attacker stole the ball back and ran to the halfway line kind of implied he knew it was going to count. In the end, I don't think anyone's really to blame there. If anyone's to blame, it might be Jamfi, it might be Rios, but we don't need to point fingers. We're still 4-1 up. Okay, Archer on the near side, throwing it down to Monteiro. I want Bellingham to score. I've decided, Jude, I want you to score. 200 caps for England, a legend of the modern game. We're still described by the media as a world-class midfielder, aged 35 this season. And while speaking of the devil, Leary is on the ball. Okay, maybe that's why he's retiring. He can't kick the ball 10 yards anymore. He's not picked out Jamfi there. And now Man City are bringing men forward. If it gets to 4-2 with 14 minutes left, do I have to start panicking? Should I be panicking? Wilford saved it. It's blocked. I think it was offside, actually. But, yeah, minor panicking going on here. Let's just lower the tempo and time waste. Look for overlap. Let's just see this game out. 4-1 up. 3 minutes left here. I'm going to make 2 final subs. Cadman, 2 goals to his name. He's not going to get a hat-trick. We're going to bring on Paul Parkin against his former club. And with my final sub, don't say I'm not a footballing romantic, Rob Carlton. This man joined us, 11 years ago in the Vanarama National League. 11 years ago, we signed him for £10,000. He has sat as our third choice goalkeeper for many, many years. He's asking to leave the club at the moment. He wants a new challenge. And you know what? If we win the Champions League here with him in goal for the last minute, I feel like he's achieved everything. He's on the pitch. He's basically a fan in terms of the overall quality he brings. He's not worthy of being in a Champions League final, but you know what? We're going to let his dreams come true, and we could still score here. Is Cadman still on the pitch? Is that Cadman still on the pitch? The sub hasn't happened yet. Sesko scored. It might be his first ever goal for Guernsey. I think he has scored in a cup game, but we'll just pretend. He's never scored in the Premier League for us. Is Benjamin Sesko about to score in a Champions League final? Is it about to... No. The officials hate romance. You heard it here first. I can confirm now that Parkin's on the pitch and Carlton's on the pitch. And with that, this game's done. 4-1, back-to-back Champions League winners. And I want to sit here and be like, we're cementing a dynasty. And in some ways, we are. But in not defending our Premier League title, it does feel like this isn't quite as impressive as it could have been. I mean, it's worse than last season, which isn't exactly what you want to see. That trophy lift happened very quickly there. I almost missed it, but I can confirm. Trophy being hoisted aloft. Guernsey, Champions League winners, 2 years in a row. We're going to need to add a star to our badge. Going into the season, I dreamed of winning the Premier League and the Champions League back-to-back years. That would have been amazing. Got half the dream true, and I suppose in adding another star, that's cool, isn't it? Lemos, by the way, got man of the match in that game over Cadman. Cadman scored 2, Lemos assisted 2. I'll let you decide if that's a fair judgment or not. We get £3 million for winning it, and another £7.8 million for more Champions League stuff. It's mad the amount of money they just throw at you in this competition. I say all of that, we're now paying £19 million to all the backroom staff and players, so they're going to enjoy their summer holidays. As for ourselves, we can't enjoy our summer holidays just yet. We are going to do the end of season wrap-up. You can see here, Champions League review. Gustavo Lemos, highest average rating in the entire Champions League. 3 goals, 8 assists, 7.94 rating. I feel like it'll go under the radar a little bit because in the league he's been a bit so-so, but this season, Lemos has still been an absolute monster for us. It is really nice to see season 17 end on a high. That said, we've still got the small matter of a transfer special, and recapping everything that's happened, I want to talk transfers, talk about next season, see what the board are expecting as well. This year, they wanted Champions League football, and I'd be lying if I was to say there weren't moments this year where we were struggling, where I didn't sit and panic thinking, what if I get sacked? What if I don't get Champions League football? The good news is, after that struggle to the start of things, we have managed to turn the ship around. I'm going to mash continue a few times. I'll join you for the end of season shenanigans. Don't go anywhere. Now, I know technically we did win 3 trophies this year because of the Community Shield and the UEFA Super Cup. I don't count those trophies. Does anyone count those trophies? The only time you count them is if you've won everything else and you want to claim you've done like the septuple or whatever it is, like 7 or 8 trophies. Oh, is it octuple if you get 8 trophies? No idea. Of course, in terms of signings this year, we didn't make a load of signings by our own standards. Having had such a successful year last year and with me being relatively happy with the squad, we were more selective with our additions. In the end, you can see here, Hunt Jens did end up picking up signing of the season. A little bit surprised by that in some regards, because I don't feel like he had a massive impact. It's one of those situations where, had he come in as our biggest transfer, had he come in as a transfer that I needed to really reinvigorate the club, I feel like he'd be put a lot more under a microscope, but because of the nature of the quality of our team and the fact we've been able to kind of maintain the level that we had from last year, he gets a bit more of a free pass. You could almost argue the same as well for Paul Parkin, who of course we snapped up from Manchester City. To be fair to Parkin, he did have a fair few issues with minor little injuries at the start of the year that definitely impacted his ability to get into the first team. This year, 7 goals in 8 games in the Champions League I think is fine. 14 goals in the Premier League isn't absolutely crazy, but at £125 million and at the tender age of 20, we're not going to judge him too soon. He has still got 4 years left on his current 5-year deal, but with the optional 3-year extension, we've basically got 7 more years to really judge his performances. 2 players who didn't perform well on the pitch but did develop okay. The first, Perez. Obviously, he had a really bad hip injury and missed, I think, 2 or 3 months during the season. So his development perhaps not quite as impressive. As for Tahar, he won the Next Gen award and he has actually improved a fair amount as a player, I feel like, in his first year at the club. Some nice improvements to his physicals and mentals. We signed him as this versatile left-back option, and with Jamfi off at African Cup of Nations, this guy made 51 appearances this season, 31 starts, 20 sub appearances, and to be fair, he started half of our Premier League games, and whilst he wasn't flawless, I feel like for a 19-year-old, he more than kind of held his own. The league season. I mean, look, we had an awful start to the year. We were always on the back foot. We were always playing catch-up. I suppose when you look at things, we did eventually start to find the form of last year. Sometimes in Football Manager, you have this thing where the squad doesn't change, the tactics don't change, but you just don't have the same level of success that you had either earlier on in the season or in the previous season. That was us to start this year. It took a little bit of mixing and matching, really figuring out which attacking players I needed to prioritise in certain areas. But once we found that, we did turn things around. You can see between, the end of January and the end of the season, we lost just a singular game. That game, by the way, was against Man City. That's one way you could look at things. I suppose the other way to look at things is that in the last 10 games of the season, we only won half of them. We actually drew 4 games and lost 1. So from that perspective, it doesn't feel that good either. Ultimately, compared to last season, we scored 12 fewer points. Next year, I want to be getting closer to that 90-point mark that we set last year. I feel like we have the quality to achieve that. Champions League, we've already talked about it a lot. Won this competition. Sellouts every single game is great. One thing actually to note with us is our stadium. Obviously, this stadium was built fairly recently. A few years ago in Football Manager, you used to only be able to build a new stadium every 20 years. That has changed in recent times. I believe last year you couldn't even request a new stadium. Now I can actually request a stadium. I did already ask about it and it got rejected. That said, if I hit continue a few more times after this meeting, there's a slim chance they'll announce a stadium thing. You've probably experienced it yourself in Football Manager, where at the end of the season, you hit continue a few times, the board go, hey, new stadium plans. Really hoping they're going to do that, because we are selling this stadium out on the regular, and we are at the expansion capacity. It's not going to get any bigger. Obviously, we won the UEFA Super Cup. We won the Community Shield. The Community Shield, we won't be in next year. The Super Cup, we're going to try and retain. FA Cup, the loss to Arsenal was disappointing, but it's Arsenal. They are a good team. As for the Carabao Cup, having knocked out the likes of Newcastle and Manchester City, I was feeling pretty good about things. The defeat to Bournemouth still really does hurt. Of course, Gaspar, our former man, scored against us. If there's a positive to take from all of it, Bournemouth, who were top of the league when they beat us, lost in the playoffs for a third year in a row. So I'm happy about that. Moment to remember this year apparently was the 7-1 win against Servette. Match to remember, the 6-2 against Everton. That was a really impressive comeback. 5 goals in the second half. That was the game directly before the second leg against Real Madrid. And I think that game in itself was a contributing factor towards the comeback we made against Real Madrid. It really gave us a bit of a springboard. From a financial point of view, you can see here, way more sponsorships than ever before. We have this worldwide reputation now. That has obviously played a big role. Competition prize money on the rise. Hospitality and corporate money on the rise. Broadcast revenue actually down on last year. And in terms of shirt sales, Lemos, Cadman, Archer, Chapman and Alanis. The 5 shirts leading the way. We nearly sold, 750,000 shirts? Maybe next year we'll hit the big million mark. And in terms of the team that we lined up with this year, I mean, to be honest, when I look at that 4-2-3-1, is that the team that we started in the Champions League final? I think it is exactly the team we started with in the Champions League final, so can't really argue with it. Obviously, we had a lot of players who contributed a lot of goals, and the nice thing actually with our team this year was that whilst we didn't really have any individual player who came up with a load of assists, it really was a big team effort. Fans Player of the Year this year, Matthew Cadman. Young Player of the Year, Matthew Cadman. Matthew Cadman. Matthew Cadman, Matthew Cadman. He's everywhere. Lemos pops up with a few awards, actually, including Goal of the Season and Most Man of the Matches. Obviously, Paul Parkin set the record for transfer fee paid. Alanis set the record for fastest goal. That 13-second goal, you might remember, in the Champions League. We did cover it many episodes ago now. Was really nice. And to be fair, Alanis has had a weird season. We started him out in the wide areas. As the season went on, he moved centrally. He really thrives in those areas. And despite me kind of messing him around, I think we can still look back on this season as a pretty successful one for him. When you look at his average rating compared to last year, whilst he didn't get nearly as many goals, the rating isn't too far away. In fact, just on the goal scoring front, especially in the Champions League, you can see here, we actually broke our record from last year of Champions League goals. We got 50 goals this season, which is absolutely mad. And you can see Cadman won UEFA Champions League Player of the Season, Young Player of the Season. In the Champions League Media Dream 11, Alanis, Cadman, Jamfi, Coppo, Archer and Wilford in there. And if we look at some of the best players by position, Manny Wilford won Best Goalkeeper in the Champions League. Coppo and Archer up there when it comes to Best Defenders. Cadman put in the midfielder bracket. Don't know how I feel about that. And unfortunately, we didn't get the Striker of the Year. We almost got a clean sweep for players by positions. That would have been cool. I have already watched back and edited the final of the Champions League and the away day bit, just so I knew how long I had to talk at the end of the video. I feel like I wasn't very happy, or at least I didn't seem very happy when I won the Champions League. I should be delighted with it, but I'm just comparing things to last season, and I'm still irked by the fact we didn't really push Liverpool or Chelsea at the top of the table. Yes, we did close the gap on them, but ultimately, 9 points behind Liverpool, that's disappointing. I suppose that really is a testament to how high our standards are here at Guernsey now. You can see here what the board's expectations were for the season. We've done a lot of this stuff. I love the fact that we've now got new objectives to maintain the best youth system in the world and maintain the best youth system in the country. That's pretty cool. And also maintain the club stature as the most reputable club in England. Are we really the most reputable club in England? Oh my word, that's quite neat, isn't it? I suppose that's what happens when you win the Champions League. We're the biggest team in England. Guernsey's not even in England. I think I might add that to my Football Manager CV. That's a pretty cool achievement. I didn't think our reputation would shoot up that quickly. You can see our expectations for the coming year. Challenge for the Premier League title next season. Challenge for the Champions League next season. Season after that, win the Premier League and then continue winning it. Okay, I feel like the reputation's gone to the board's heads. That's pretty steep and difficult in terms of expectations. That is unforgiving. Next season, lads, we're going to have a title challenge. Look at that. They're all excited for it. And also, we're going to aim to win the Champions League as well. I'll tell you what, we really are now one of the big powerhouses. I am acutely aware, having won back-to-back Champions Leagues, there's perhaps going to be the question of, what's next? You know, you've kind of done everything and, well, I suppose that's one way of looking at it. I'd say we've not done everything yet. We've not actually managed to retain the Premier League. And on top of that, there is the Club World Cup in 2 years' time, which I kind of earmarked last year as I feel like a potentially good end point for the series. Given how this year's gone, we might need a few more years to really cement a Premier League dynasty. ultimately, with the team we've got, I think it's a case of wait and see. I feel like with Park to Prem, I usually have a pretty good feeling for when we're at the end of our adventure. I don't quite feel like we're there yet. We've got a good squad, but it's a squad that I do believe can be improved further, and we've got the money to improve it further in a transfer special tomorrow. I feel like now with Sesko and Bellingham retiring, I should just demote them to the youth team. Look, you've done your job, lads. Have a nice end to your career. Here is the Guernsey team for the summer season. It's not actually the biggest squad by our own standard. If we look at things, a 24-man squad with those players retiring. I am going to want to add a player or two, I think, this summer. You guys can let me know down in the comments below, what position should I be strengthening? Are there any players who are massively overvalued who I should be cashing in on? Who is not worth the money we're paying them? Speaking of that, actually, we've got a load of contracts kicking in at the end of the season that I kind of pre-signed with players. In fact, if I just flick through players on the contract screen, you'll see here, provisionally agreed to new contract, provisionally agreed to new contract. There's going to be lots of these. So when we come back next time, please do not have the fright of your life if you see a load of our players suddenly on £100,000+ a week. I mean, in the case of Grasser, £200,000 a week. Unfortunately, with players like Grasser, I think he's kind of worth that money. But yeah, the wages are going to look a little bit different next season, and I'm not sure how much money we're actually going to have to play with on the wages. We might need to jig the budgets. If you have enjoyed this season and you've enjoyed this episode, do make sure to drop a like on things. We are going to be back tomorrow with a transfer special. Excited to get into it. Some money to spend, a squad to improve. The aim now here at Guernsey, back-to-back Premier League titles. And why not dream and believe we could win 3 Champions Leagues in a row? That sounds like a pretty good dynasty. That's the aim. Are we going to be able to achieve it? You have to stay tuned to find out. Take it easy, have a lovely rest of your Monday, and until next time, it's me, Jack, and I'll talk to you all on the next one. I'm out.